Welcome again to a new video from Irrational Investors. This time we're going to talk about a really interesting topic, probably one of the most important variables in the entire AI revolution. It's something that's going to play a pivotal role, and we'll also look at how you, as an investor, could potentially take advantage of it. You see, the AI revolution is changing everything, but it runs on one critical resource: power. And I mean a lot of it. So today, we're going to break down this massive energy crunch that AI is creating and how it's forging what might just be one of the biggest investment opportunities of the next decade.
All right, let's just dive right in. The core idea here is actually pretty simple, but the scale. The scale is absolutely staggering. AI's incredible hunger for computing power, this isn't just another tech trend that's going to fizzle out. No, this is kicking off a durable, multi-decade investment supercycle in electricity. We're talking about a fundamental, structural shock to the entire global energy system. And you know what that means? That's exactly where the big opportunities are hiding. Okay, so first things first. Let's really try to wrap our heads around the sheer scale of this problem. I mean, exactly how much juice does this whole AI revolution actually need to run? The answer? Well, it's probably going to surprise you. Yeah, this really captures the cause and effect perfectly. See, on one side, you've got the engine, these incredibly powerful and frankly power-hungry AI chips like the NVIDIA H100. And on the other side, you've got the factories they run in, these absolutely massive data centers. What you've got to understand is that generative AI is a huge leap. It's shifting computing from, basic processing to complex reasoning. And that kind of thinking, well, it takes a colossal amount of energy. And here's a number that should really grab your attention. Okay, so the International Energy Agency, they project that electricity demand from data centers is set to more than double by 2030. It's going to jump to almost 1,000 terawatt hours. Now, to put that into perspective for you, that growth rate is 4 times faster than every other electricity sector combined. This isn't just a little bump, this is a totally unprecedented surge in demand.
So you might be asking, where is all this demand actually coming from? Well, it kind of boils down to 2 key phases. First, you've got training. Think of this as the aha moment, the immense initial energy blast it takes to teach a model like GPT-4 everything it knows. It's like sending it to college for a decade all at once. But the real monster here, the thing that's going to drive demand for years and years, is inference. That's the power consumed every single time you, me, or anyone asks an AI a question. Now, multiply that by billions of queries a day, and you've got a massive, constant, and ever-growing demand for electricity.
Okay, so we just need more power. Sounds simple enough, right? Let's just build more power plants. Well, if only it were that easy. This brings us to the central conflict in our story, what I'm calling the Great Power Bottleneck. See, it's not just about making more electricity, it's about actually getting it to where it needs to go, to those data centers. And this right here, this gets to the absolute heart of the problem. Our existing power grid, all those towers and transmission lines you see everywhere, it was designed for a different era. An era of slow, predictable growth. It is completely, utterly unprepared for the kind of exponential demand surge that AI is throwing at it. And this creates a huge timing mismatch, one that pretty much guarantees a multi-year period of serious grid stress and, you guessed it, a desperate need for a ton of investment.
And this is the absolute crucial point. Just look at these timelines. It's kind of insane. You can throw up a massive, power-guzzling data center in what? 1 to 2 years? Easy. But the essential stuff needed to power it, the power plants, the substations, the transmission lines, we're talking 5, 10, sometimes even more years just to get the permits and build the thing. So think about that. The demand is showing up today, right now, for infrastructure that might not even exist for another decade. That's a huge problem.
So how does all this drama translate into an actual investment idea? I mean, when a system is this stressed out, where does the money flow first? It flows towards one thing and one thing only: immediate, dependable reliability. You need to keep the lights on no matter what.
And that, my friends, brings us to natural gas. Think about it. AI data centers need power 24/7, 365. There are no holidays, no weekends, no exceptions. And right now, in the short to medium term, natural gas is pretty much the only fuel source that can be deployed quickly enough to provide that kind of nonstop, on-demand power. It's the essential reliability bridge that's going to get us through this initial crunch.
So why are we focusing on gas? Well, it gives you that critical 24/7 reliability that these data centers are screaming for. But here's the real key investment angle, and listen closely to this. The play might not be in the gas itself, but in the midstream pipelines that transport it. Seriously, think of them like a fee-based toll road for energy. They don't really care about the volatile price of gas, they just collect a fee for every bit that flows through. They benefit directly from the rising volume needed for these new data centers. It's a beautiful model. All right, next up, we've got the gatekeepers of the entire grid, your good old regulated utilities. Now, these guys are set to benefit from a really powerful mechanism called rate-based growth. Let me tell you how it works, because it's pretty sweet. When a utility has to spend billions to build new power lines and substations for a new data center, regulators essentially guarantee them a profit on that spending. So all that new demand from AI, it translates directly into predictable compounding earnings growth for these companies. It's almost like a built-in growth machine.
Okay, but let's be clear. Natural gas and utilities, that's the bridge to get us through the next few years. So let's look further down the road. What's the long-term vision? What are the real growth engines that are going to power AI for decades to come, especially when you factor in all the climate goals?
Well, it's probably no surprise that this brings us to renewables. For these big tech companies, with their super ambitious net zero goals, solar and wind are just the obvious choice. And here's the kicker. They're now the cheapest and fastest growing sources of new electricity on the entire planet. They are, without a doubt, the dominant growth engine of this whole energy transition.
So what's really driving this renewable boom? It's basically three things. First, you've got those corporate net zero goals I mentioned. Tech giants are literally the world's biggest buyers of clean power. Second, the economics are just fantastic now, especially when they get supercharged by policies like the Inflation Reduction Act in the US. And third, and this is the really crucial part for investors, are these long-term contracts called power purchase agreements, or PPAs. Basically, a tech company agrees to buy power for 15, maybe 20 years. This locks in predictable, almost bond-like cash flows for the developers building these projects. It's a huge de-risking factor.
But renewables have a big problem, right? We all know it. The sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow. So how on earth do you get clean, carbon-free power 24/7? This is where the potential long-term game changer comes into play: nuclear power. And I'm not talking about the giant plants of the past. I'm talking about a new generation of small modular reactors, or SMRs. These could be the ultimate strategic solution for getting zero carbon, always-on power.
The real elegance of these SMRs is that they solve two massive problems at the same time. First, they provide the only proven way to get 24/7 zero-carbon power. But second, and this is the really cool part, because they're small, you can potentially build them right next to the data centers. That means you could bypass the congested power grid entirely. That is a huge deal. It's no wonder the tech giants are already pouring billions into this tech. That's a massive vote of confidence for SMR developers and, of course, the uranium suppliers that would fuel them.
Okay, we've covered a lot. We've talked about the problem, the bottleneck, and both the short-term and the long-term solutions. So now, let's bring it all together. Let's put this into a clear, actionable investor's playbook.
So here's the core idea, the main takeaway. The grid is just not ready for the AI demand shock. Simple as that. This isn't some short-term trend that's going away. No, this is a deep structural shift that's creating a multi-decade bull market for all kinds of power infrastructure. The massive challenge of powering AI is, in turn, creating immense opportunities for smart, strategic investment all across the board.
So here it is, your final cheat sheet. Think of it this way. Each of these four pillars gives you a distinct way to play this megatrend. If you're focused on that immediate need, that reliability bridge, you're looking at natural gas midstream pipelines. If you prefer the gatekeepers, with that guaranteed predictable growth, that's your regulated utilities. Want the clean, dominant growth engine? That's the renewable developers backed by those long-term contracts. And finally, if you're looking for that strategic, long-term home run that solves the grid problem, that would be the nuclear SMR developers and the uranium they're going to need. That's all. We hope you enjoy it and see you soon with another video from Irrational Investors. For more articles and insights, visit our blog at www.irrationalinvestors.com. And remember that this video is for informational purposes only and does not constitute and should not be construed as an offer, invitation, or solicitation to buy or sell any securities, financial instruments, or to participate in any specific strategies. Any investment decision should be based on the investor's independent judgment, financial situation, objectives, investment horizon, and risk tolerance.